Today we're going to be revisiting one of my favorite topics, which is hate speech and deplatforming and demonetization and that whole crap in the political spectrum. Now, there's a good reason why I'm talking about this, even though I don't really do political commentary. A lot of people think that free speech is just a government issue and that we have free speech according to the government policies, but that is not quite true. The world is changing in a lot of different ways, and it's an important political viewpoint to hold, that people should have free speech, and that free speech should be be encouraged, and debate should be encouraged, so that one ideology does not displace and silence other people that disagree with that. I'm John from BulldogMindset.com. On this channel, I teach you how to be a man. I teach you how to get your finances in order to become financially independent that you want, how to build the physique that you want, how to get the girls that you want, and how to be what I call a bulldog, to have the bulldog mindset instead of the victim mindset. Click that subscribe button to become a bulldog if you haven't already. We're talking about Steven Crowder and the drama that's going on here. So just to catch you guys up, if you haven't seen already and heard what's happened, basically what has happened here is that Steven Crowder, he's a pretty popular right-wing YouTuber slash comedian. He's got, 3.9 million subscribers on his channel. So pretty big deal. Okay, he's I've actually enjoyed the things that I've liked that he's done is the Change My Mind segments, where he'll go to a college or university and he will sit there and debate people, but do it in a very respectful way, a very sensible way. He's done issues on abortion and in a lot of other topics that are pretty inflammatory, but he does it in a very tasteful way. He's got his facts. He listens to the other person. He's very respectful, and even though his comedy is a little bit crude sometimes on his channel, in that medium he's very, very respectful. So he's a person that I respect. I think that he's a great example of diplomacy, right? I talked to you guys on this channel about how important diplomacy is, and he is a very diplomatic person. It's really important to have this, especially in the politically charged environment that we live in today. One of the reasons why a lot of people really dislike the left, okay, myself included, is because there's very few diplomatic people on the left. So basically what's happened here is Steven Crowder did this video on this Vox reporter who happens to be Mexican and gay, and he was attacking Fox News, saying Fox News was the dominant news source and squelching everyone else and everything. And of course Steven Crowder went off on this, but what he did, which I don't 100% agree with, I mean, it's kind of funny because it's in comedy's sake, but he made fun of the guy. I don't even remember his name at this point, but he made fun of the reporter there for Vox, because kind of making fun of the fact that he was Mexican and gay, and just kind of calling that out a lot. Not like really hate speechy way. Not, again, I don't really believe in hate speech. I think that's a ridiculous notion, because anything because it's not a very clear metric. We can't clearly define what is hate speech and what is not, and the more that you classify stuff like that, it's a slippery slope. So regardless, anyway, he did some things. He said some things, probably crossed the line a little bit. Not quite the smartest thing, but is in jest. I think it's in line with his channel, and it's certainly not something that you should ban someone for. But this Vox reporter got really butthurt about it, and basically went to Twitter, complained to YouTube, right, publicly, and said that he wanted Crowder's channel. Basically, he wanted Crowder deplatformed. Okay, and I've done some videos on deplatforming. As you know, I'm very much against that. Free speech is so important. All right, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit here. But just to catch you up, basically what ended up happening is YouTube came back and they said, hey, you know what? We looked at Crowder's content, and the Vox reporter, he had also posted some clips where Crowder had said some stuff about him, which again doesn't look too good. All right, he did say some stuff about him being gay and stuff, and made fun of him for being gay. So I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that's not, I think that's where Crowder did actually mess up here, right? So, but anyway, I just still don't think it warrants being deplatformed or even really demonetized, honestly. But regardless, he wanted his channel basically removed, banned, deplatformed. YouTube came back and they said, hey, you know what? We looked at his stuff, even though it's kind of hurtful and kind of mean-spirited, it doesn't violate our policies, so we're not going to do anything about it. All right. And then, of course, what ended up happening was, Vox, the Vox reporter, he went off and he complained to news media outlets. He basically tried to make a whole thing against YouTube, saying that they didn't support LGBT creators and that they were anti-gay and all of this stuff. And eventually what ended up happening was YouTube capitulated to him. They came back the very next day and said, oh, whoops, actually, after further review, we looked at Crowder's stuff and he is violating some of the policies, so we're going to demonetize him. Which of course pissed off both parties, right? I mean, I guess Crowder probably doesn't care if he's demonetized. In fact, it's giving him publicity, so he's not making money from ads. What ended up happening is that was not good enough, and this is one of those reasons why also, right, guys, that I talk about not apologizing and backpedaling and standing firm in what you said, because YouTube fucked up here pretty big, because when they backpedaled on the situation, that is basically, it's throwing meat to the wolves. Okay, the wolves are not going to stop coming after you when you throw them some meat. They're going to come after you further, right? They showed some weakness, so like I said, the Vox reporter, he doubled down on this. Okay, and he attacked even further. He said that this is ridiculous, right? He threw up a whole big stink, and and then YouTube again capitulated again, and he he said that he has some T-shirts that says socialism is for figs, but it's play on words for fags, whatever. And they said if he takes down the links to the shirts, then his channel would be remonetized, and that started off the whole controversy again. And this is the whole thing, and then a bunch of channels ended up getting banned and demonetized and flagged as YouTube just revised their policies on what is hate speech and a bunch of stuff, including history channels and stuff like this. So it's gone kind of crazy at this point. It's a lot of drama, in the YouTube position. Like YouTube, they screwed up because they didn't come with a firm decision on this, and they actually let someone basically argue with them on Twitter and then got a response and responded on Twitter. I think that just was a poor choice. It just shows weakness, and when you start to show weakness, you're going to get pushed, and you're going to get pushed on both sides. So it was really not a good move. I mean, they're in a tough position because they have this huge channel that, obviously if they ban Crowder with 3.9 million subscribers, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to say that they're biased to the left, okay? And at the same time, they have advertisers which are being super fucking sensitive about LGBT stuff and liberal agenda and stuff. And so, yeah, they're in a tough spot, okay? But the reason why they're in a tough spot and the reason why all of this shit is happening is because, again, it comes down to this idea of free speech. And I talked about the deplatformization of, that happened with Alex Jones and Milo and all this stuff. And again, I don't talk about this stuff just because it's I hate the news, I hate the drama in the media, but this is a very important cause. Like, this is something that I think is really important. I think a lot of people in the last video I did, when I was talking about that, they said, well, you know what, John, you are for freedom, you're pretty much libertarian in your viewpoint, okay, so why should we regulate this company? Like, YouTube has the right, and Facebook has the right, and all these social media platforms have the right to deplatform people and to have a political agenda if they want to, and to get rid of people that don't agree with their political agenda. That's basically what you said to me. While I agree with that in principle, and see, here's the difference, okay? They should absolutely have the right to deplatform whoever the fuck they want for any reason that they want. It's their business, okay? I'm not even going to use the argument that these companies have monopolies, because again, that's pretty anti-capitalistic anyway, and that's pretty anti-libertarian. So what if they have monopolies? Okay, that's fine. I'm not even going to use that argument. What I'm going to say is that there's a difference between what they should be allowed to do, okay, which is anything with their own property, and what is good as a society for us to basically accept, okay, and or to not to fight, or to fight against, or to not fight against, right? There's a big difference, right? Just because something is legally okay and should be legally okay doesn't make it right. Like, the law and morality are two different things. And again, I don't preach morality on this channel, okay? And I've done videos talking about this, and I'm not about to, even though it might look like I'm now telling you that we should take a moral stand against this, because that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that when we limit free speech in any way, in any capacity, when we're not supporters of free speech, okay? When the government does it, it's really bad, obviously, but when private corporations do that, when we support them doing that as human beings, as people, what we do is we censor ourselves, okay? We think of it this way, right? I mean, this is complicated because we're talking about YouTube channels, we're talking about platforms and videos and all this shit, okay? But let's go back to books and book burning, because that's essentially what's happening here, right? Because do we say that, okay, that we want some other entity, whether that be government, whether that be a political organization, whether that be big media, big company, do we say that we want someone else to tell us what books we can and cannot read? Or to basically remove books before we can even see them, right? How would you feel about that if you were told you cannot read this book? This book, it's no good. It's toxic. You cannot read this book. We're censoring this book from you. That's essentially what's going on here, okay? We're going back to the days of book burning, right? And the problem is, like, when we look throughout history and we see the precedent for this and why this is a problem, okay, you go back to the Dark Ages, right? You go back to the Catholic Church. You go back to the points where people were being burned at the stake for being heretics, okay? This is where our history lies. And we see what happens when one ideology wins and is allowed by the people and by government to suppress other ideologies, okay? At that time, that ideology might seem correct, right? If you could go back to medieval times, if you could go back to the Dark Ages, okay, if you go back to the time of the Crusades, and you could live in Europe during that time, okay, you would be in a very small minority if you believed that the Catholic Church was wrong and that they were wrong to do what they were doing. Majority of people supported this. Okay, I know from our historical perspective it doesn't seem like that, but that was the majority. Okay, they thought that what the Catholic Church said, okay, and all of the things that they were doing, all of that dogma, that was correct and that was the right thing to do. Okay, even burning people at the stake, right? I mean, we talk about, atrocities that have happened throughout history and the way that these happen, right? Even in Nazi Germany, right? What do you think happened? An ideology won that suppressed all the other ideologies. Now, that one was supported by government and enforced by government, but it didn't start out that way. It was that's things get into government. How do you think governments are formed? Governments are formed from people and political opinions. Okay, so if you have people, okay, that want to suppress free speech, right? This is why it's so important right here at this level. If you have people that want to suppress free speech because they say it's, quote, hate speech, right? If they say, Alex Jones, he's a nut, he says all this stuff, it's dangerous. It's dangerous stuff. We can't let anyone hear this stuff. We got to stop. We can't read these books. We got to burn these books. No one should be reading these books, okay? If we start there and we believe this stuff, right? And you see this on college campuses, right? You see people that, whether you agree with them or not, okay? I don't agree with a lot of the right-wing, kind of loony bins, okay? Some of them are very logical and analytical, and it's good, and some of them have some ideas that they present well, but they're still not the greatest ideas, okay? And some of them are very moralistically charged, okay? It happens on both sides, but, definitely, if you see those people on college campuses, and you see them being shouted down at places where they're giving debates, where people are disrupting and basically preventing a dialogue from happening, not having a constructive dialogue with these people. But when we see that, okay, and that becomes the norm, and you're feeling justified in doing that, what ends up happening is that those are the people, okay, that youth that are going to those universities that are having those ideas reinforced and those ideologies reinforced, and believing that it's right to silence someone who you disagree with, who you deem is morally wrong, right, by your set of morals, okay? Then what happens is those people are the same people that will both vote and be elected and will form the government. The government is formed of people. Whether I know that the government doesn't seem that way, and that the government and many times seems against us and seems very foreign to us, but the government is formed from the people. The people that believe these things are the ones who shape the government and those policies and what is happening. And so if you have a general acceptance of censorship, of the idea that we can get rid of free speech and that we can shout down people that we disagree with, what will happen is that it will not stop there. It will go up to the government level, and that's how an ideology will become an ideology that you do not question. And it's very dangerous times. Again, I've talked to you guys about this a lot. If you haven't already, read John Stuart Mill's book on liberty. Okay, he talks about this quite a bit. This should be required reading in every high school, really, in any university for sure, and it is for philosophy majors, I'm sure, but because you need to understand why this is so dangerous. Again, if we go back to the Catholic Church, right, at the time, in the Middle Ages, when the Catholic Church was reigning supreme and ruling over Europe, okay, people thought it was right. They thought it was morally right. They thought what they were doing was right. They thought there was no point to question the church. Not everyone, but a majority of people did, okay? And now, if you look at that perspective, does a majority of people, like what we consider to be, quote, right, what a lot of the left considers to be moralistic right, the moral authority, it's shifted, it's changed, has it not, right? I mean, the Catholic Church in the Middle Ages would have definitely burned homosexuals at the stake, for sure, okay? They did, all right? But what I'm saying is that that's what everyone thought was right. So it doesn't matter what everyone thinks is right, okay? You can look at people like Alex Jones and Milo and say that they're crazy and say that they're promoting hate speech and say that they're wrong and all this stuff, and diversity is important and all of these things, okay? And I'm not going to debate those things with you, but what I'm going to say to you is this, is that those viewpoints will shift. If you just go back 20 to 30 years in our own history, okay, in the U.S. and the world, a lot of those ideas that we have now of what is, quote, the moral code of ethics now is different. And a majority of people would have supported the old way back 30 years ago. We go back 50, 100 years ago, again, we'll end up in places where what was morally right was shifting. And so what you have to understand is that right now, you can't see what it is going to become, right? Whatever you think right now is, quote, morally correct, that's going to shift. All right, now what the majority thinks is morally correct is going to shift in time. In 50 years, it'll be a different thing. But what we have to guard against is that one ideology being so powerful and being so true. Okay, and this is why even a lot of people, science is their religion, and I'll come against science in many cases because it's not absolute. Okay, a lot of scientific thought changes over time, and a lot of theories get disproven, a lot of models get refined. Okay, I know I get a lot of flack for that. I don't care because, again, I would agree to probably 99% of what would be considered modernly, commonly accepted science. Okay, but I won't agree to it 100%, and I won't encourage you to do that because of the danger of this. Because we have to be able to have those strong opinions, but loosely held. If we don't loosely hold them, if we cannot defend our arguments, if we cannot constantly defend our arguments, if we cannot constantly try and attack our own arguments and our own ways of thinking, we get stuck. And that's where the Dark Ages came from. We don't want to go back to those times. We don't want to go back to the times where we didn't have independent thought, where we didn't have independent freedoms, right? We cannot do the idea of basically what is good for everyone, right? What is best for everyone. The utilitarian viewpoint does not work because it suppresses the individuality, it suppresses the ideologies that may emerge, that may produce a better ideology. We have to constantly challenge our ideas. We constantly have to challenge our beliefs. We have to constantly challenge the moral authorities that are taken up before us. We have to allow people that we do not like, right? We have to allow white supremacists, if they want to have a platform, whether we agree with it or not. I don't agree with them, it's fine, but we have to hear their dialogue, right? Because if we don't and we suppress those things, what ends up happening is, one, they are going to form underground organizations, and they will they will exist in secret. Okay, and that's where dangerous ideologies that are echo chambers, that are self-reinforced, happen. Because when you push someone underground, what ends up happening is they just find the people that agree with them, and they only talk to those people, and that's where cults form. That's where these really strong ideologies form, and a lot of these times these turn into revolutions. And throughout history, that has been the case. But that's number one, what happens. And the second thing is that we never have our viewpoints challenged. If you went back to the Middle Ages again, and you put where, if you're going to play some bets, and you said, do you think that someday, right, the thing that will be right would be to accept people of whatever sexual orientation they want, even if it's not heterosexual? You would say that no, there's no way that's going to become a higher moral authority than the Catholic Church. I mean, this is God, Saint Paul here, Saint Peter. I mean, God said this, so there's no way that our culture, everything in society is going to shift, and that's going to become the moral right. There's no way, right? That's what you would have said back then. Okay, that's what the people would have said back then. So whatever you're thinking and saying now, right? And again, I'm talking mostly to to the crowd that agrees with me, right? If you're on this channel, okay, because you're not a victim, you don't have the victim mindset, but also to those of you that don't. I know that some of you, you have very leftist views, and you think that you can judge people, and you think that people are morally wrong and decrepit and whatnot. I'm just saying that whatever your viewpoints are, whatever your moralistic authority is, just realize that it's probably not going to be the same in 50 years. It's probably going to shift. It's probably going to go a different way. And maybe it'll go more broad and more diverse, or maybe it'll go the other way. We don't know, right? Throughout history, it's changed over time. So you might be on the winning side now, right, in your mind, but you're not always on the winning side. And that's why it's so important that we have these open dialogues, and we have free speech. And again, it's not just a matter of the government. Like I said, the people become the government. So if you think, okay, well, it's fine as long as the government is not quenching free speech, then it's fine. But I want these people off of YouTube, or I want corporations to do that. And again, I believe that they should have the sovereign right to do it. Okay, it's their property, right? No one should have control of your property. Government should not compel you to use your property in some way, right? But as an individual, speaking out, as an individual, forming political viewpoints and your philosophy in life, you should be the kind of person that says, I want people who have completely opposing viewpoints to me to be able to speak. I want to be able to hear them. I want to read the books that I'm not supposed to read. I don't want someone telling me what's good for me. I don't want someone telling me what I should read, what I should eat, what I should do, what I should consume, what I should watch, and censoring things from me because they're too dangerous. That is a very dangerous place to be. And throughout history, every time that's happened, we've had catastrophes, right? Again, if you were to go to Nazi Germany, right, you would think, like today, looking at it, right, it seems absurd. But if you were there, okay, and a lot of people said, oh, they were compelled, they were forced, they were scared. Bullshit. They bought into the fucking ideology, 100%. Okay, a lot of people bought into that ideology. Yes, different methods were used to compel people to, but people bought into it. They believed that because they didn't hear anything else. There was no opposition, because the opposition was silenced. Okay, and when you silence your opposition, you put yourself in a very dangerous place. And a lot of it has to do with echo chambers. A lot of it has to do, and you see this again, like I said, the things that I speak out against politically. Again, I've done a lot of content on the black pill stuff, and not because I want to hate on these people. I don't want to hate on these. It's fine. I feel sorry for a lot of them that that their lives kind of suck, and they believe that they do, but it's because they're self-organizing, having echo chambers of their ideologies, and these are resulting in violent outbursts, and they're also they're highly destructive, right? We have to have dialogue. We have to constantly rehash what we believe to be true. So the basically I could tell you to do is just to be aware of this stuff, okay, and to not sit on the sideline and think that it doesn't matter. If you've got a platform, if you've got something to spread this, I'm doing my part in that. Again, this is one of those rare times where I will take a stand and say something about this, because this is some bullshit, okay? And how can you apply this to your life, right? Aside from this, because most of this really you won't have enough of an influence to make a difference. But what I would say is that in your own life in general, the way to apply this is to remember that you need to hear opposing views. to not avoid those things, to listen. My perspective in life has changed dramatically by listening to people that had completely different ideologies and views than I have. And I haven't always adopted their views, okay? But it's changed me. It's made me understand. It's made me be a more diplomatic person, because if I understand, most people are not doing stuff, okay, because they're malicious assholes. Most people are doing things because they are doing what they believe is right. And when you understand that, and you understand why someone believes something is right, even though they may be misguided, then you can empathize with them. And when you can empathize with them, you can communicate with them, because you cannot communicate with someone that you can't empathize with. Make sure, if you haven't already, click that Bulldog Mindset quiz. It's in the cards. It's in the link below, and see if you've got the victim mindset or Bulldog mindset. You cannot be oppressed when you're a free thinker. It's impossible to oppress a free thinker. Let me know what you think about this whole thing, and click subscribe if you haven't already. I'll talk to you next time. Take care.